But first, here tonight at 10, friends and family remember missing Riverside mother Cheryl Coker on the one-year anniversary of her disappearance.
2 News reporter Kristen Stowell was at a vigil for Coker tonight and spoke with some of her friends in our top story.
Mark and Brooks, several people I spoke with tonight tell me it's hard to believe it's been a year since Cheryl Coker was last seen. Tonight, dozens of people gathered at a Riverside church to pray for answers and justice. Family members, friends, and even those who never met Cheryl Coker came together Wednesday to bow their heads in prayer.
I wanted to come tonight just to show support for them. I did not know her, but I just have thought of them so much over this past year.
It's hard to believe it's been a year already. It's gone so fast, but yet it hasn't.
Some people here, like Debbie Wise, have known Coker since childhood. Many people here tell me her disappearance has rattled the Riverside community.
It kind of rocked us all. I was a little nervous coming home at night, the next night, going into my driveway, and just kind of looking around, making sure there was nobody there.
I think everybody feels the same way I do. They want this over. They want them to find her.
Officials from Texas EquiSearch, who also attended the vigil, say this weekend will be the group's 11th search for Cheryl Coker. David Rader says he believes they're getting closer to finding answers.
I'm always confident, it's a process of elimination, but again, where we're at and what we're doing makes the most sense. And again, we're going to keep at it.
The Texas EquiSearch team says the next search is set for Saturday and Sunday. They're always looking for volunteers, so if you'd like to help, we have more information on our website, WDTN.com. Click on As Seen on 2 News. Kristen Stowell, 2 News, working for you.
2 News, working for you. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Tonight, Living Dreds. Who is that? That's Miss Kelly over there. She has joined the team. Welcome, Kelly. Thank you for wanting to hop on with. I don't know. Your trillness will rise being in the presence of course, Bobby Trill sitting over here, man. How you guys doing?
Beyond the Trill.
All right.
I'm doing good. It's good that we've been talking about it for a minute.
Yeah, you guys missed out on like an hour. I don't know where you've been. But CW, welcome. CW is at least one of our listeners from across the pond over there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Interested
in history.
I
remember one was interested in history right there, genealogy and stuff. I remember that. CW.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I'm interested in history too, so anytime anybody brings it up, man, I remember them.
Kelly, you're also a kind of a history buff. Huh?
Yep.
and obviously a true crime enthusiast. So you told me once that it's kind of hard. You always send me links to different 911 calls and things like that. You say not a lot of people around you, man, or I guess weird like us.
Yeah.
I like
I
listening.
tuned in every week.
That's right, man. So yeah, I mean, you were a regular at CW. Some of the other chatters may recognize, well, at least the name. I told Bobby Trill, I was like, man, Kelly has so much to say. Like every time she comments, it's like a paragraph.
Yeah.
Like
just so much to say. Right. I was like, yeah, we got to get her on. We got to see if, she'd like to come on. So
you really notice another true crime person when you see him,
I
they got a couple
appreciate
paragraphs.
that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we have a case that is unsolved. This is unbelievable. When you thought Delphi had, just the blatant disregard for, I guess the law and just all the craziness surrounding Delphi.
Yeah.
Well, we have one that's not on the level, I guess, of Delphi, but we have one here locally.
Might be worse.
That is just, it's unbetrillable.
Yeah, it is.
Unbetrillable. And it is the case of Cheryl Coker here in the Dayton, Ohio area.
Right.
And when I say close, I mean we're 10 minutes from, where one of Cheryl's daughters went to high school, Stebbins High School. I mean, we're right there. This and when you come across the case like that, whether and you're in Pennsylvania, right, Kelly? Okay, so I don't know if anything happened. I mean, I'm sure down in the city, you get the Philly and all those, but
I mean, we just moved here from Baltimore, so there is a lot happening there, but
you got that
it's
right.
kind of quiet. It's a big difference.
Exactly. Oh, I know about Baltimore. But when something happens that close to your home and you know that you could very well be in the presence and not even know, you could be behind this person at line that is a prime suspect in a murder case involving his soon-to-be ex-wife, Cheryl Coker. And he's just out getting a bag of chips and a 6-pack of beer at the local Kroger, and you could be behind him in line and not even know it. That's a little unsettling.
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely
I watch so much as all of us do, so many cases. I thought Delphi was close. That's about 4 hours west.
Right.
That's still it's a nice little drive if we wanted to go out there, and we could go to where they unfortunately found Cheryl's remains back in 2020. 10 minutes up the road.
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is absolutely insane. So, and it hasn't, and the sad part, I'll stop rambling, give you the floor. The sad part is there are no recent news coverage. It's been very, very silent in obtaining justice for Cheryl. There's been nothing going on, and when we get into the discussion of their prime suspect and all the craziness surrounding there, you're going to be like, probably like us, why the fuck isn't this guy in jail?
Yeah.
Why
I think the most recent thing we found was that podcast like 5 months ago. There's been nothing covering this.
Yeah, no, there's and local news. Every once in a while, as you've seen in that opening clip, that was the 1-year anniversary. Every once in a while, that's about the bare minimum of what you'll get.
Right. We usually go into cases thinking, the prosecution's really going to have to prove something to me to convict this guy. In this case, I have like the opposite of it. The defense would really have to convince me of what I'm seeing is not this guy.
Right.
It's more like that to me. I know it's sad. It's not supposed to be that way, but I'm a human being, man. And that's the way my mind works, man.
We're human. I think we're all in the same boat with this one.
Exactly. Welcome, Facebook user. Sorry, my laptop was dead, so it's behind me charging. Hello, everyone at work, but listening. Awesome. Thank you, guys. And with Delphi, I think we're all on the side of the defense, and now
prove to me he did it, somebody else didn't. In this case,
in this case, it's like, okay, look, the people are on your side, prosecution.
Yeah.
We're on your side.
Yeah.
Just a conviction, just justice for Cheryl.
Well, okay, all right. Let's just get into a little rundown of some of the events that took place, and then we'll get into we'll go around and everybody can voice their opinion. Basically, you guys just jump in, correct me if I'm wrong, because I do that a lot. Very factual here. On October 2nd, 2018, Cheryl, I guess, her normal day, she takes her one daughter. And do you have the names, Kelly? I'm sure
I
you
believe
probably.
Michaela, I believe, was the younger one. If I
Michaela,
remember
Sounds
correctly.
right.
yeah, and the older one, I can't think. It was like Mass.
I can't think of it
I'm
either.
slaughtering.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I forgot that one. I apologize.
But
can't
yeah, she took Michaela to school again, that high school right up the road. Comes back, hops on Facebook, for a little bit. It said that her husband was sleeping at the time. He had just gotten back from Florida with their other daughter.
The younger daughter, the
The
one that was
the younger daughter, because they had already planned to go to Florida, but I don't think Cheryl was aware that his girlfriend was going as well. Oh, the web, this web gets bigger, trust me. And after he says he wakes up or hears Cheryl in the shower, doesn't actually talk to her or communicate with her. And mind you, 11 days prior to this, Cheryl files for a divorce. Okay, so it wasn't really a happy home. There's probably a lot of tension. There was, going through the big D can be a little rough, So he wakes up, Cheryl's gone. And that's the last that he saw of her. And then that's it. Pretty much. And then but he
no
is
looking for her, no answering lie detector tests, not working with detectives, none of that. Just she's gone. Yeah.
She's gone.
Yeah. And once they found out she was missing, that I remember the searchers and stuff that were going on at the time. And you didn't really seem to want to have anything to do with them, like land to them. But I remember it was a big thing at the time. I remember community kind of rallied around it. People were going out searching and things. And yeah, I think everybody pretty much was looking at him.
Marissa, thank you. Thank you.
That's
Marissa. I knew it was something like that.
And that daughter, I believe, is from his previous marriage. I mean, her previous marriage.
Her
Michaela
previous
is a child they had together.
They had together,
Yeah.
yes.
That's right.
So it was, so they, he gets talked to, and he gives a story. For one, even the detectives are like, man, something just ain't adding up with this guy.
Yeah.
The detectives are probably headstrong, I would think, but are being held back maybe from pursuing this. He tells them, okay, well, Cheryl came in, says she needed help with her car. Car wouldn't start. Car kind of worked fine all morning because she goes, she's last seen about 10:30?
I think it was like 9, I want to say, something around there. They were saying after she dropped her daughter off at school.
That was the last time. Okay.
Yeah. And then Bill said himself over the phone that she had came back and jumped in the shower, and he heard her in the shower, but he went back to sleep.
That he spoke to her through the door. He didn't.
Yeah, spoke to her through the door.
Yeah, didn't actually see her.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Ruby. No, you're fine. We're talking about the case of Cheryl Coker here very locally in the Dayton, Ohio area. Kind of similar to, but not to Delphi.
Yeah.
And you'll see what it's like the opposite but the same.
Yeah.
So he's telling these stories and as you mentioned, Bobby, he wasn't very, or you may have mentioned it, Kelly. He wasn't very, cooperative.
Or
Take a lie detector test.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then his stories, that he was telling on how everything, went down. When he was questioned by a reporter
Right.
about the guy, who is this, person? Well, I don't know. Oh, she was into some, sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
And, ran away with somebody.
which he wouldn't even elaborate on. He said she was into some weird stuff before she disappeared, but I won't elaborate because I don't want to hurt our daughter. But then in the next sentence says how she cheated on him a million times. And according to other people that knew them, that was not the case. He was the cheater. So, which was obvious. He went on that vacation, which I guess we didn't bring up yet, but the vacation that he had gotten back from on October 1st and she disappeared October 2nd, he had taken his girlfriend on that vacation as well. So he obviously got around himself.
Yeah, I mean,
And during his time, I think there was some curious text too, something about nail in a coffin. Sent a text to Cheryl. Bill sent one to her after he found out about the divorce. He said, "Thanks for putting the nail in my coffin." Usually people who are getting divorced don't live together, and there's a reason.
yeah.
It's a bad deal, and I think she was going for custody as well, which we see it all the time. People
Custody
getting killed for
battles
that.
and the divorce. That's
It's a huge
messy,
motive.
messy.
It's a standout thing in my mind. As man, and she had mentioned on a text to a friend, I guess, at work, that she'd be into work, if she ain't dead.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
The other odd text messages were apparently the girlfriend that her husband Bill was seeing says that she got some strange text messages from Cheryl, which to me seems like Bill sent them, because they're saying, if something happens to me, will you pursue a real relationship full time with Bill? Why would she say that? I mean, and apparently she very much disliked the girl Bill was seeing after finding out that he was in a relationship. That's why she wanted a divorce.
Right.
So that almost seems like he was setting up something to show she might leave or disappear.
For
yeah.
Sure. And I believe that might be why the car was found where it was. We could talk about that whenever. But to make it seem like she met up with somebody at a local bar that they're familiar with.
Yeah, and we can bring that up because that's where the 10:30 thing came from in my head. At 10:30 was when her car was spotted, I believe, by cameras pulling in.
And the way they found this, by the way, before we go there,
go ahead.
Is that her oldest daughter was able to find her iPhone.
Yeah,
with the app,
the track your phone,
track
find
to the
my
parking
find
lot.
my phone thing. Yeah.
So when they went to the parking lot, they found her car with everything in it, but not the keys. It was
and the
locked.
car was locked.
Yeah, and a locked car.
Yeah,
and that's what provoked them to go and look at the CCTV cameras that were posted at Clancy's bar and one at Kroger.
And the weird thing about what they found was it was there were some medications, there were credit cards,
obviously
her phone, which is all weird, left in the car, locked with no keys, and a mysterious figure man, and it was said it was a white male through a couple 911 calls.
I'm gonna say it, man. Could it be because somebody didn't want to take their house key off of the keychain and just decided to take the whole keychain so they get back in their house?
And that's what I wonder, because when they did do a search at the house, they did have a search warrant. Were the keys found? Where were the keys after the fact? We've never heard what happened to her keys. They had to be outside the vehicle for the vehicle to be locked, and whoever moved the vehicle there obviously took them with them then,
Right.
or disposed of them somewhere. So where did they end up? Were they back at his house?
Right. Indeed. I would like to know more of what they know, but I don't
Don't
know.
we all?
I know, right?
I am curious. Curious about the keys, about a lot of it.
They're
you know, we want to talk about a motive. I mean, getting divorced. He finds
here,
out
okay,
11
you
days
know, with
early.
that, that's probably a good time for me to bring up this little article that will go through these points and will probably lead us into all the points that we you know want to discuss. And I found this on people.com, and they go through 5 you know, some main points. This came out April 28th, 2020. So this was right after they found her remains. And you know, Bill was obviously, through all of this, Bill was a prime suspect. Of course, they go right to the spouse. You know, that happens with every case. You know, if Jody mysteriously dies, I'm going to be investigated.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm going to come after you. I like her. I got your back, Jody. Don't worry.
There you go. There you go. So, you know, that wasn't out of the ordinary, but, you know, he was the only, you know, prime suspect they had. He was never charged with anything, even after, you know, the search warrant, even after her body was found. And something in that search of the home brought about, as the detective said, a very crucial piece of evidence that he couldn't talk about that points them most likely in the area of a homicide versus a kidnapping or a disappearance.
Right.
And this was before they found a body.
Yeah.
But
her body wasn't found. She disappeared in 2018, but her body wasn't found until 2020. Sorry, I don't think we touched on that yet. Sorry.
No, I probably skipped over it. I'm glad we got you here. Keeping us in line. Yeah, exactly. So it took 2 years, you know, almost to you know, take and find the body.
Before they found her body, these 2 detectives, they came on and did a, you know, whole local spiel here on the news. It's like 10 minutes long or something. And they said right on the show that they only have one suspect, and that's Bill Coker.
Yeah.
That's it. They came out and said it to everybody, you know, and we're pretty much insinuating that this is the guy.
I mean, we're really on their side here. It's like, come on, guys, you got the guy.
Yeah. And that's the same interview where they discuss that. You know,
and they also mentioned, if you want to hear, and I don't care that, you know, okay, he had this, you know, this girlfriend and everything, and that spawned the divorce. He wouldn't leave her, and blah blah blah.
Well, as you go back to the video footage that they found.
Oh yeah, I remember where I was at. Sorry. I did the reset button. They said in like the first 4 months, they spoke to him like one time.
Yeah.
One time to ask about what's going on with the case, any leads, blah blah blah. Seemed very uninterested. I mean, and even if, you know, he was with his girlfriend, this is the mother of one of his kids. You don't have at least, okay, fine, you're not in love with this person anymore. You're in love with this person now. you still don't have that little bit of love for the mother of your kids. And if something bad happened to her, you wouldn't be in the least bit concerned because it is the mother of your kids.
Or at the
Or
very
the love
least,
for your child. Your child's out there wondering what happened to her mom. I mean,
Exactly.
2 years in, had no idea where her mom disappeared to. And there's rumors of, oh, she could have ran off. Or, you know, I can't imagine what that feels like. Being a mom of 4 kids, I can't imagine what that would do to their heads. You know, he should have been more concerned about that, guilty or not.
It seems that way to me.
he didn't even care enough to cooperate with a polygraph test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that simple, man. Come in and exclude yourself so we can move on. Help us out. And he won't even help.
And see, you can take and say, well, that wouldn't even work. That wouldn't prove anything because you're nervous or you're anxious when they go in there. But they do a baseline. They take, if you're nervous and anxious when you go in there before you're even asked anything, well, that's your baseline. That's what they work off of. So if it starts spiking or does whatever it does from that baseline of already anxiety and nervousness, that heart rate may be a little elevated at first because you're there, but if it starts getting even worse and worse and worse, that could be signs of deception.
Thinking like people, we know ourselves, right? Just as human beings. Even if it was just somebody that I knew, like wasn't even a real good friend, and they said, hey, we need you to come in and take a polygraph, I'm going to do it. I don't know this guy that well, man, but I want you to find the right dude, man. Someone
Exactly. Yep.
Just a human level.
Yeah.
Not to mention somebody who was your wife and the mother of your child.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sleep. Like if Carlos went missing, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I wouldn't be able to go back home and feel comfortable knowing I'm not out there looking for him. And when they went back to check with him that night, they had to wake him up to talk to him.
Him was tuckered out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, how do you sleep through that? You know, your daughter's probably up terrified and you're passed out.
Yeah. Let's I'm gonna go through some of these points and then we can discuss. There's just maybe a paragraph or two about each one. We briefly touched on maybe a mismatched marriage, possibly. Cheryl's 1988 marriage to Bill was her second after a short-lived first union that produced a daughter, Marissa. Cheryl and Bill together had another daughter, Michaela, and welcomed a granddaughter born to Marissa. So she was a grandmother. Friends and relatives say the couple appeared ill-suited from the outside. Cheryl was bubbly and quick to laugh, an open book who was always checking in on others, while Bill appeared to be quiet and reserved. But they also said Cheryl welcomed the stability Bill offered her in the wake of her troubled first marriage, and the couple was visibly fixtures at their daughter's athletic competitions at home and on the road. Her friend Shelly Applehans told people that Cheryl loved Bill. Their main attraction to each other was the family. So anything you guys want to throw in on that? How much is that really relevant? That, I mean, to be honest, some may say me and Jody are a little mismatched. I'm more out there and center of attention, and Jody's more reserved and like that. So our personalities are different, but they say opposites attract. So how much weight does this hold, Kelly?
I think the biggest part with their relationship that stood out to me was the fact that they were so unhappy that they felt the need to swing. And one of the comments that was made by the sister-in-law, so Cheryl's brother's wife, said that the reason she did it, although she didn't feel like it was the best idea, was because they had never been happy in their marriage. So it made things exciting. So I know that was one of the biggest points brought up about their relationship is that they were swingers. But the idea was everybody had to know who the partners were, and you were not allowed to develop feelings, I guess, more
Feelings and
emotional
fall
feelings
in
behind it.
love.
It's supposed to be strictly sexual. And he developed feelings more than once for other women, it sounds like. And she didn't want to pursue further with that, from what I understand. I think that was the biggest thing that stood out about their relationship. I don't think the opposites thing really matters. Carlos and I are the same way. He's not, the in your face type. I'm the talkative. We're different too. So I think that
Exactly.
matters.
Yeah,
But,
that makes out for good stuff, though.
yeah.
Usually, typically.
Yeah. And here, number 2 on the list is, kind of touches on what you just mentioned, Kelly. Allegations of cheating. About 13 years ago, the marriage took a hit when Cheryl suspected Bill of infidelity. She did say, "You better stop seeing her," says another of Cheryl's friends, Tina Wilson. He instantly did. The bump seemed to pass, but years after that, Cheryl revealed to her closest friends that she and Bill became swingers, engaging in sex with others outside of their marriage. It wasn't like she did it just for Bill, says Applehans. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Appellans. I don't know. Shelley. I'll just call her Shelley. She did it willingly as well. The sex life in her marriage was better, she said.
Well, this seems to be like a swinging lifestyle would be the last ditch effort to save your relationship.
Exactly.
Wow.
I agree with that. I think that's what the sister-in-law had kind of touched on in her interview, was that Cheryl would have done anything to try to make things work because her idea was she wanted a family and she felt like that would make Bill want to stay and be happy in that situation. And so I think that, like you said, it was kind of an effort to keep the relationship interesting and make him want to stay. When in reality, I don't think it's necessarily what she wanted, from what I've understood of their personalities so far in researching the case.
Yeah, it's
she finally stepped back and recognized her value.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And just
Like,
how ridiculous having sex with somebody else would save a marriage.
Yeah.
Just to me, I mean,
She realized that.
I don't know. That's weird.
That might put me on the murderous side if I had to go through that. You might be making an episode about me if I had to go through that.
Well, we will cover it.
Living in the same house.
Right. Before we go on to the next one, a couple comments. Ruby Slippers. What did I do to make my mom leave? The kids' thoughts. This isn't something that apparently old Billy is thinking about. And you'll see why we, keep pointing our finger at him, because we got more to get into. A welcome, Joni. 4 pit bulls across America. I seen them in a. I was seeing them in a chat. Where did I see them? It was maybe Defense Diaries or something. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I see a lot of these people that join in the chat and in other lives. Yeah. We're all one big community. So the next one on the list, and again, as you mentioned, Kelly, it seems like Cheryl was just getting tired of this. She wanted to be with him. Okay, this whole swinging thing isn't working out. You're falling in love all over the place. Stop it, or we're getting a divorce. I think she even put it off maybe a little bit. Finally, boom. She's doing it around the end of September, because it was 11 days prior to the day in question, October 2nd, that she said, "I'm going through with it. I'm filing for it." And number 3 is hurt feelings from the divorce. When Cheryl saw that Bill was focusing his attention on other women, she confessed growing dismay to her closest friends, telling them Bill had a girlfriend. So it was kind of hurting her feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
This was not helping their marriage, and most of us would probably agree.
Yeah.
Swinging isn't really, where you want to go. Marriage counseling, possibly.
Doesn't help increase trust in the relationship.
It really doesn't. It's not one of those. Cheryl was heartbroken about this other woman, because obviously her feelings were stronger for Bill's than Bill's was for her. That's pretty obvious. In a separate conversation in the summer of 2018, Wilson said, her friend Tina Wilson said, Cheryl told her she was fearful, not of Bill, but of losing him. Cheryl wanted Bill to give up the other women, but he refused. He didn't want a divorce, though. He wanted his cake and eat it too.
Great guy.
Yeah. Always thinking about other
From what
people.
I understand, she was the moneymaker. So I think that's part of it too, was he knew, hey, she's my sugar mama. I can do what I want, but she can still help pay the bills. I don't have to pay child support if we split up.
Yeah.
That type of thing. I think that was more it than even
She had
worrying
a good
about his
job.
ego.
Yeah, she had a good job. She worked with Delphi or GM.
I know she was working at GM for a long time. That
She was
is a
a
great
crash.
job.
Sorry.
No, you're
Oh,
good.
you're good.
What was that?
She did I guess crash testing for vehicles is what I understand.
Yeah, for GM.
Nice job.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
yeah, nice
But
job.
you know how much bank they used to make. My dad and brother both retired from the plant down there before they shut down. And then afterwards, you tried to go to a place like Delphi and stuff, but since those were GM makers, they lost a lot of jobs there too. But I think she caught on somewhere else, still making some good money.
No, she did. Yeah, she rebounded from that. It seems pretty quickly. Plus, she probably had a lot of money invested in that job.
I think the text that you touched on earlier too, Bobby, was the nail in the coffin thing. And those same texts, from what I understand, he was talking about how he would only be making $16 or $17 an hour at his job. So then he would, lose that other income. He would be not having that extra income at that point.
Yeah, and the big burden to him, of course, he'd be paying some alimony, and since she's going for custody, he'd be paying child support as well.
Mm.
And we know this is a tale as old as time.
Yep.
This happens a lot. And they usually don't live together. Like I said, I live in a town of just under 4,000 people, and we had a murder a couple years ago, and that was the first murder we'd had in over a decade. And that's what it was about. A guy who didn't want to pay child support and alimony killed his ex-wife. It's a tale as old as time.
It really is. And maybe that set him off because, as I mentioned, on the 21st of September, 2018, she filed for the divorce anyway. She told him Cheryl told them he wanted to keep up appearances until their youngest daughter, then 15, finished high school.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to stick around until she was 18.
Yeah.
And Cheryl was like, no, I think we're going to do this now.
And that's when he sent her, after he got the divorce papers, he sent her that text saying, thanks for putting the nail in my coffin.
Yep. And then tried hitting her with a car. I don't think we've brought that up yet.
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
Yep. That's just testimony to his character.
It is.
He has anger issues.
Yep. If you're willing to try to do that.
It seems that way anyway. At least the evidence kind of,
would stick out to me already as a sore thumb that, man, this guy's this aggressive and he's tried to run her over with a car already. Yeah. He's already going to be my number one suspect in this, just from that alone. Already, but there's so much more that is ridiculous.
To add to that, we also talked about the fact that he was physically abusive to his ex-wife that he had twin boys with. He beat her so badly he put her in the hospital. So clearly this guy doesn't mind putting his hands on people.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Seems like he's a woman beater a little bit.
6
Sorry,
days.
I don't mean to keep cutting you off either. I think I have a slight delay. So every time
no,
I cut you off a little bit.
No worries at all. I'll hear you jump in. It's no worries.
Yeah. 6 days after she filed for the divorce, Cheryl stayed behind in Ohio to attend a family wedding, while Bill and the couple's then 15-year-old youngest daughter went ahead with a planned trip to Orlando, accompanying, unbeknownst to Cheryl ahead of time, by Bill's alleged girlfriend. After they returned from Florida on the morning of October 2nd, 2018, Cheryl vanished.
Yeah.
Was this the planning? A little trip to go plan? A lot more has to be dug into this girlfriend, I believe. I don't know what I don't know what she has to do with it, but if nothing else, she was the motivator and helped conspire in all of it, and that's bad enough.
Yeah, I could see both sides of that. I could also see him coming home, her finding out, you went with her, them getting into a big argument that got really out of control. And he's already mad because of the divorce and the alimony. He's probably already had these thoughts going through my head.
That's it in a nutshell.
That I'm gonna, I got to take care of this situation, or I'm doomed financially. She's gonna take my kids away from me, And she just,
because he would in no way be able to,
it's
his financial
right,
take care of these kids on, like you said, $16 an hour. I mean, he was working at a Costco.
Yeah.
In Centerville. I worked out there.
I think she knew. I think this was part of a plan. Just from what I've understood about her interviews with detectives and her personality, those text messages alone just don't add up. The ones that they're saying came from Cheryl's phone. Mm-hmm. And the question from detectives to the girlfriend was, do you think these possibly could have been sent by anybody other than Cheryl? And her response wasn't, I don't know, or no, I don't think so. It was, well, it couldn't have been Bill.
So you could be very well looking at a case like...
He didn't say, do you think Bill sent these? And that was your initial response. So
right, yeah.
We're setting that up. Like, that just seemed odd to me to begin with. And as a mom, she's also a mom. If I'm dating this guy, we get back from a trip and his wife disappears and he's not concerned about looking for this woman, I'd be thinking twice, like, did this dude have something to do with this? Like, why aren't you questioning something too? Why aren't you concerned about the mother of his children missing? Or
absolutely.
And see, if you weren't on the show, all of what you just said would be a paragraph in the chat. I made it easier on all of us, man.
Agreed.
No, that's right on. It sounds good to me because, as far as, it sounds right on, man.
I mean, and what you just laid out there, Bobby, as far as, that her finding out, maybe talking to her daughter or something while they were on vacation. Was there communication with her daughter?
Right.
And then maybe she hears a voice in the background, or it slips out. Maybe someone not necessarily comes right out, but she knows and she confronts him and, about it because he was still living there, as you mentioned, Bobby.
This is screaming to me, Chris Watts.
It really does. It really does. There's been, a couple other podcasts that, which I'm not, going to throw them out there, but that have done, covering this a little bit, and that seems to be the general consensus. It really does scream Chris Watts.
Weird.
It's almost the exact same scenario, but in Riverside, Ohio.
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's
the
like
kids are still living.
Tale as old as time, man, like we said.
It really is. And then that, that screams motive, financial devastation, and I mean, money, dude. And I mean, root of all fucking evil there.
Saving yourself and killing somebody that you're really mad at.
Right. And the last one here. Oh, no, sorry. We got number 4, the abandoned car raises suspicions. So we got to talk about the abandoned car. After dropping her younger daughter off at school that morning, Cheryl returned home, and she and Bill still share where police says she was logged into Facebook about 7:45 a.m. When her active social media presence stopped. So it stops around 7:45. And about 3 hours later, surveillance video showed Cheryl's SUV entering a parking lot of a strip mall with a restaurant and grocery about a mile away. Worried when they didn't hear from her as the day wore on, family members, not including Bill, used a Find My Phone app that tracked Cheryl's cell to her locked parked car in the same parking lot. There was a lot of personal items inside her SUV. Detective Abney said, we found her purse or credit cards. That's not normal. No one's going to leave their ID, their money, their credit cards, their cell phone, especially.
Right.
And medication, apparently, too.
Yeah. I heard there was some, I don't know what kind, but
yeah.
Friends and others said Cheryl never would have abandoned her mother, Mary Carroll, who is living with a cancer diagnosis, nor her 2 daughters or granddaughter. And they universally said she would never be without the phone because she used to, she used that to stay in touch with her, sick mom, her daughters, her granddaughter. I mean, and, that's something that, even, my wife can relate to.
Yeah, it's your lifeline. You don't leave without your lifeline.
Exactly. If something happens to your grandbaby or one of your kids, you want to know.
Right.
And that's, what she was using. Forget a couple comments here before I forget. Facebook user, what amazes me is that you don't see much about him, his family or friends. With him being the main suspect, you would think they would speak up for him. That's a great point.
You think.
It's a great point. Ruby Slippers, I'd be surprised if he didn't tell or hint of the wife's demise.
Yep.
He doesn't show much interest. That is just the really crazy part.
Like I said, I would show more interest for a stranger just on a human level. Imagine somebody that you're really close to.
Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Last on the list here, the mystery man in black, which is spotted by the surveillance camera leaving the car, walking away from the car. And this was a sketchy. I'm not going to read through this part. We can just talk about this one because I think we're all pretty well versed in this little part of the story. Couple 911 calls were made. We just see this individual. They said he had white gloves on, a black hoodie up, black pants, black shoes, white gloves. And yes, it was the 2nd of October, and I'll have to look back on that and see if I can get the weather that day.
I believe the gentleman from the 911 call, the older gentleman, I think you listened to that one too. I believe he said it was a warmer day. That's why what caught his attention initially before the guy covered his face was that he was wearing all black, like long sleeved attire during a warm day.
And just to show you the similarities, we live right there. Look at today. I'm wearing a hoodie today, and it's later. It's way later in the year. I mean, we get some pretty warm days here in October.
Yeah, they said, just like the Delphi, it was an unseasonably warm day for the beginning of October. So this 911 call, one by an older gentleman. You could tell he was, older, probably a little wigged out. Makes his call, says it's this guy, describes him, what he's wearing. Was he the one that said he put his hands up? Yeah, he was the one that said that, when he walked by, he would put his hands up like this to cover his face, as so nobody, if he got close to somebody that could possibly see his face, he would do that. Well, that's not fucking suspicious.
Right.
Yeah, so suspicious enough to call the police. It would take a lot for me to call the police on somebody.
Right.
You have to be acting pretty weird.
Have you seen some of the people in this neighborhood around here? I'd constantly be on the phone with them, but sometimes you just like, all right, well, but hey, this guy was on to something, because it wasn't just him.
Right.
As this white male was walking through the neighborhood, another person calls 911 about a suspicious looking guy, all hooded up and just looking like he might be into something.
And again, in the direction that he went, so the surveillance camera showed that he went in the direction of Cheryl's house. And they are directly butted up to that school. And like we talked about earlier before we were on the show, there are surveillance cameras out there that showed that male walked through the schoolyard. And apparently, from what I understand, the school actually was on lockdown because he looked so suspicious. So it wasn't even just 911 callers in the neighborhood. The school itself went on lockdown because they didn't understand who this individual was or why he was in the schoolyard passing through.
That's interesting. All those people have that gut feeling that something's off with this guy. This doesn't look right.
Yep. These cameras that pick him up show him going right towards the back of the Coker home. Then he disappears and he's not seen again anymore on surveillance. Weird, huh?
And the sister-in-law commented, Cheryl's sister-in-law, so Cheryl's brother's wife, again commented in her interview stating that when they would do family events at Cheryl's house, that he would often hop that fence. For example, on days like 4th of July, he would shoot off fireworks out back of there in the schoolyard. And then he would hop their privacy fence to get back into the yard several times. She had watched him do that. So she said he easily could have walked back that direction, hopped that fence. She said there was a chain link fence on the outside of their privacy fence, very easy to hop over. She said, I've seen him do it dozens of times. I would not be surprised if it wasn't him in that surveillance camera. So there's a lot of people that believe it's him.
So what we got here, just to paint the picture, is surveillance coming from the person dropping her car off at the Kroger and Clancy's bar over to where two people call the police and say, we got a suspicious person here. And this is all timed, to where this would be this person walking. And then we get the guy going to the back of the school onto, right behind the Coker house. Pretty much got the person dropping her car off and walking back to the Coker house.
Mind you, the whole time Bill says he's home.
Yeah. Says he's home. But his neighbors had apparently seen him out that morning.
And then the story turned into he went to lunch with his girlfriend for that time period that she was missing. So that's too. So from what I understand, he was at lunch with his girlfriend for, I believe they said an hour and a half. And the distance where her body was found from their home was 1 hour round trip. So half an hour there, half an hour back. He had just enough time to dispose of that body and get back to the house so that his neighbor saw him out front again.
And 15 minutes to spare, depending on how he drives.
Yep.
The road where they found her body, I've been on a few times, and it is narrow. It's not the nicest road in the world. It's in the middle of nowhere. Really. It's a turn off of the middle of nowhere. So it could be somewhere where you could be sitting for a while and not really see nobody coming by.
That's nice that you guys have firsthand accounts of the areas. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is a little surreal. Facebook user, I'm sorry, I don't have my laptop. My suspicion is this man in black is the one that drove the car to the parking lot. And I guess people that say, well, you don't know if he actually got out of the car, because the camera that spotted this car, her SUV pulling in, was motion detected. So it had picked up something that set it off, and then it went off after so many seconds. When it was triggered again, that's when you see walking from the direction of the car. I think we can, pretty much assume that that's why the keys were missing to get back into the house. I swear, were you listening to our conversation earlier on the pre-show show?
That's why I'd love to
That's
see
exactly what we were saying.
what they took from that search warrant. What did you find in the house? Because I'd love to know if they found the keys in there, because that might be also part of why they were like, oh, we're thinking it's a homicide, we're thinking it's this, but why isn't that information released? Again, kind of a Delphi feel. Nothing's really out there for us to know what they collected, what information they have outside of the surveillance. So
right. And speaking of evidence that was collected, they knew Mark. Welcome, Mark. They had something crucial evidence. I think I might have mentioned this earlier. Before they even had a body, which they only found a skull and some of the just bone pieces, basically, and or pieces of her clothing.
Right.
And it's amazing that, I mean, this guy, who else could it be? He says, well, she could have ran away with somebody. She was doing off the wall shit. She could have ran away with somebody, almost painting her as, the bad guy.
Yeah.
But why, if she ran off with this guy and this guy did it, I think is where he's kind of going to.
Yeah.
If this guy did it, so he takes and does whatever, parks her car, the killer, according to Billy Boy, parks your car not but 5 minutes up the road from her house, gets out and walks in that direction towards their house. Why would the person, if the person wasn't maybe hired by Bill, because there was $4,000 that was missing, he said, that was like their little nest egg or just money they had put aside. And I think only him and Cheryl knew that money wasn't retrieved in her locked vehicle with her phone and credit cards and all that.
And I've given thoughts to it as well. It could have been somebody hired with that 4,000 or whatever. And then I just remember that the person who's walking back to their house also has the keys to the house. You don't need the keys to the house if you can just go up and knock on the door. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That, and you're admitting, Bill is admitting he's at the house the entire time. So how is this person coming and taking this vehicle? I'm sorry, no one's coming to my house and taking a vehicle and I'm not noticing it. You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't make any sense.
And if he's coming back to get the $4,000 payment for him, he could just knock on the door because Bill's home.
Yeah,
and it's Bill. That's why.
Yes.
That's why. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna go on a rant, man.
Ran away, brother.
No, you know how ridiculous it is.
It is.
I know they say, it's circumstantial or whatever, man, but circumstances make your case.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, a defense would have a hard time convincing me that it's not Bill Coker. And I'm not crazy.
No,
I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm level-headed.
Right. I mean, it just takes a little bit of logic, a little bit of logical thinking.
Here's I think it's become a problem. We grew up in an environment where we didn't have DNA and shit like that.
Yeah.
You had to use common sense to convict somebody. You know what I mean? You had to have some kind of suspicion against them. Things had to add up because you didn't get that DNA, or you might have had a fingerprint or something.
Mhm.
But we're just so used to it that this is how justice comes, because 12 jurors get together and decide, does it make sense that this guy did this?
Hell yeah, it does.
Yes, and it does. And I don't know why they're not bringing charges against him. You have nothing to lose. Hell, we just gave you your case, prosecution. There's no excuse.
Mm.
Either you're going to convict this guy who killed his wife, and people will finally speak for Cheryl Coker, and that's what needs to be done here, or you're back in the same place you were with this guy out there raising his kids and being free. But either way, try the guy. Somebody has to be held accountable for this. And look at where it's all pointing to. I don't know if I'm going to be in at work tomorrow. I might be dead, kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know, the whole
text or
spiel.
call,
They're getting a divorce. There's motive there. He's mad at her. Tried to run her over with the car. Everything's pointing to one person going back to the house from the scene, and nobody sees them again with keys.
You know, the other thing that I'm kind of curious about, I'd like to do more research on, is that the Fitbit that she was wearing.
I'm glad you
this
brought that up.
touched
I
on.
do. Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about that, because I was seeing that her, Fitbit at whatever time, dropped from, like, I guess, like a 120. I don't know if that's heart rate.
Yeah, it spiked to 120 and then dropped to zero.
To zero. I think one thing, and we know it can be done with the technology that we have. I don't know if those things are trackable. If they can, I'm sure they are. Can they retrieve the time?
I know for a fact they can.
That went to zero, and then compare it and ping Bill's phone, or and see what's going on there. And then we already know where Cheryl's phone was, thanks to her daughter. Ping Bill's phone.
Right.
If his phone, maybe he leaves it at the house. Maybe he just doesn't, take it. But I think, if we can get a location on whether or not the Fitbit went off, and when the Fitbit drops to zero, the heart rate drops to zero, and ping his phone, because this happened in the house, both are going to be together. And that puts him at the crime.
There was a case where this just happened. It was a case of the guy getting ran over in Las Vegas. He was ran over with the car. His Fitbit actually went to zero. His Fitbit called the emergency to his location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's how they found out that he was deceased. Pretty much the family kind of knew something was going on. So yeah, they can.
So they can do that.
Yeah.
And the sister-in-law commented that she also wears a Fitbit and had been wearing one for like 7 years or something. And she said she's never had her Fitbit drop to zero ever. She said, even when I take my watch off, it stays at whatever my heart rate was when I took my watch off until I put it on my wrist again. So she said the only time that she's aware of that a Fitbit would drop to zero is if
it was
your heart rate is zero. So, but I'm curious, where did they find that watch? Because I know the sister-in-law touched on that information. Was the watch at the house? Was the watch in her car? Was it found with the remains? I'd never heard where that was found.
This could be the crucial evidence pointing towards a homicide that the detectives got a hold of, because they know it's a homicide now because a body's missing and this Fitbit dropped to zero, and that it would have to be on her to do that. Like you said, if you take it off, it freezes at the last reading. It had to have been on her when she died. Or when she was murdered, they had to be on her. So
that, and it would explain the spike. If it went to 120, your adrenaline's pumping.
Struggle.
If someone's trying to kill you and you're struggling to get them off, because like we talked, he was an MMA fighter or something along the lines of that, did some type of mixed martial arts. Say he went to strangle her. I'd be fighting with my life to get somebody off
That
of it.
explains the spike and then
And the
sudden
adrenaline, yeah,
drop.
would have that spike. So,
You can all checks can be made payable tonight. Living Dreads. This goes out to the prosecution's office. We just did your fucking case for you, and we're not shitting on them because we're actually on your side. Our
yeah.
biggest question, I think, that everybody has for the justice for Cheryl Coker is why is it stalling?
Because we also forgot to mention that there's also pictures of him coming out of the Kroger with a cut on his back of his arm.
I told you
On
this
his
was
elbows, yeah.
over an hour. There's a lot involved.
Yeah, there's
here.
so much involved.
And
with
he
it.
was wearing all black that day.
Yeah.
He was still in all black clothes, seen later that night at the exact Kroger that her car was found in.
Only difference, he had black
his heart.
shorts on instead of the pants. That was the only difference.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, he had to, and I was thinking with looking at the surveillance and how that looked like almost like a rug burn.
Yeah.
On like there was a struggle and maybe he went down, there was, tussling and he hit the ground or hit his elbow on something, or that, could be, scratches that didn't look like that was caused by a scratch on his elbow.
Wasn't it also reported that he had bruised knuckles?
Yes, his knuckles were swollen that he said he did like at a forklift, on a forklift or something. It got smashed or something.
But he never reported it. He said it happened at work, but he never reported the incident happening at work.
There's nothing to corroborate that story.
Hey, prosecution. He got mad. They got in a fight. He beat her up. That's why his fist got that way. Probably choked her to death. Her highway bun has not been found. Took her body, put it where it was, made up all these excuses. There's your case. I don't know how it could be anybody else or somebody coming back. It's either him or his neighbors.
But you got a dude like Richard Allen sitting in jail for possibly 2 years with almost no evidence against him. Like we talked about. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, we're gonna talk more about the Cheryl Coker case. That was a nice little segue, Kelly. You didn't even know you did it. I do want to speak on what's been going on up to date with the Delphi case, and there have been a few new developments. There's been some documents out there, new documents out there from Judge Gall's attorneys or attorney. She had to go out and get her private counsel because the attorney general said, not me.
All right.
I ain't touching this with a 10-foot fucking pole. You got me fucked up. I ain't doing that. So her private attorney, is puts out this document, and it was in regards to. Did it have to do with the transcripts, Kelly?
So it was a lot. So those two original motions that were filed by, I believe her name was Kara, the one they talked about on the defense diaries, and they also had her on.
Yeah.
She had filed two motions, and the initial one, the original action, was regarding all the paperwork that was not public. It was supposed to be public. So like all the prior motions, with the exception of the Franks memorandum. So she threw her clerk under the bus and said, you didn't file any of this stuff. So now I'm ordering you to file this so that the public can see it. It's all your fault that it's not there, is basically the way that it went. And now that stuff will be made public, except for the defense memorandum, the Franks memorandum, because she said she will not make that public due to the fact that these attorneys are no longer of record. So that's the one document outside of Rossi's claims that she will not make public again. So the other ones are Rossi's filings trying to DQ her. And all of that information, she said she won't put that back on the docket either because he's no longer a record. So She basically put everything out there so that the Supreme Court shouldn't have to rule on that initial original action motion. Now, the second one she still has not touched on, which was to make the transcripts from those in-chambers meetings public.
That's
She
what
has
I'm
not given
curious
those up yet.
about. Yeah.
So that one she has not given up yet. They haven't received those transcripts, and I believe she has till the 27th, if I remember correctly. So it sounds like that one will still be dealt with by the Supreme Court. So I don't think she's skating out the way she wants to. Thank God, because I think we're all done with her bullshit too.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
the gall of that woman.
The gall.
Yeah.
She's as corrupt as the day is long.
Man, and it is so just like right in your face.
Yeah, they don't even care anymore.
Don't even care, man.
And then the next motion that was filed, so that was on the 14th, is when Gall put her files in. On the 16th, the media actually did a motion against Gall and what she's been doing. So a bunch of the media actually came together and came up with what's called an amicus brief. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But they were basically saying that they do need to rule in favor of putting these documents back out and possibly DQing Gall, because all of this is causing speculation in the public. It's something that is now breeding all these conspiracies, like you talked about before. Ignorance breeds ignorance. If you're not giving us the information, that ignorance is there, and we're just going to breed more ignorance because we don't have the facts to back it up. So we're going to, as humans, come up with whatever scenario we feel fits. Yeah. And one of the things that, if you don't mind, I can read the quote from the document.
No, go ahead, please.
It says, sorry, let me look at it. So the secrecy of judicial action can only bring ignorance and distrust of court. Its suspicion concerning the competence and impartiality of judges and free and robust reporting, criticism, and debate can subject the criminal justice system to cleansing efforts of exposure and public accountability. So it's just basically saying we can't trust the government, we can't trust the system if you're not giving us the information, because then we feel like you have something to hide. And we can only breed, more bullshit in our heads if you're not giving it to us, so we need to make it public.
Yeah, and I mean, that a lot of great points. That was awesome. But one that stuck out to me is if you don't, for one, if there's not transparency, then yes, that's going to create us to get into our own head, and that's going to, we're going to start thinking, oh, okay, well, you got something to hide, like you said. And then we start speculating. We want to know more about this case. We're not trying to sabotage it. I don't think any of these, content creators are really trying to sabotage, the integrity of the case.
Just trying to light the light, brother.
Exactly.
Shed light on it.
I mean,
Cheryl Coker needs somebody to speak for her.
Exactly.
She needs people to do that. She's a human being who deserves to live.
Yeah.
And if we don't keep it in the public eye, they think we forgot about it. And then they think they got us. They don't have us. We're here for the long haul because these people deserve justice, especially those kids. I mean, and not just Libby and Abby. I mean, Cheryl Coker's kids need justice as well. I mean, her grandkid. I mean, it's awful.
All of them are going to miss out on such awesome memories. I have great memories with my grandparents, and my grandson Zane so far is having a lot of cool memories with us, and to have somebody take that away in Cheryl's case over greed and being scared to be poor and maybe live within your means. I've been trained to do that. Man, I ain't rich. I'm doing a lot better now, but there's been a lot of struggle in my days. So don't be scared to do that. It's not worth killing your wife or Chris Watts, killing your whole family over. That's over a woman. Just divorce the chick and move on.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she was 46. That's young as shit. I mean, that's terrible to have your life ended at that kind of age and not have those experiences with your family because of money. It's just crazy.
And then with Delphi, you know, Abby and Libby, her family will never be able to experience them growing up and getting to these points and having kids and making their parents grandparents.
Destroyed lives, man. Many lives.
It's crazy.
Pay.
So it was that all that's pretty much gone on this week. I know
Delphi.
It's just
Delphi.
With Delphi.
Yeah, the only other thing was Gall's response to the media's amicus brief, and she pretty much said, you didn't have a right to file that because you didn't come through my court first. And they pretty much said, you don't answer shit about this case that anybody brings to your court. Fuck you. We're moving on to your bosses, and we want an answer. And that was their response to it. And I completely agree with that. I mean, she hasn't heard anything on the defense side or publicizing anything that anybody's brought to her. So screw her. Move on. I mean, sorry to put it so bluntly, but I think we're all to that point with her. It's just she's done so much backwards, sketchy stuff that distrust is 1000% there from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blatant violation of Richard Allen's, you know, due process. I mean, she has just, I mean, very, again, just in your face, in plain sight, taken and, you know, just stripped him of, you know, Richard Allen's right to, you know, his counsel, his, you know, right to a fair trial. No, you can't have that. That works in your benefit. It's not up to you.
That's kind
or
of
a speedy trial.
Speedy trial. Yeah. I mean, he's been locked up for what? You know, 2-3 years now. 2 years. This is ridiculous. You know, and yet we can't get Billy Boy.
It's been
behind bars.
Yeah, and I hope that people in the Coker case will start to put pressure, at least on for some kind of prosecution to go on with this, because they're putting the pressure on them in Delphi, and it's nice to see. It melts my heart a little bit. People are actually really putting pressure on them. Like, we really want answers. We want the truth to come out, and the right people to pay for this.
Yeah.
And people hate on the defense for putting that memorandum out there. But one, honestly, the clerk put it out there. But two, I'm thankful they did, because that's what sparked all this. I mean, honestly, I wasn't even aware of the case until your show at that time. I don't know if you remember that. I told you, as much as I'm into true crime, I didn't know anything about this case until you guys did the show. And that was after that memorandum was in place and put out there for people to see. And since, I mean, it's blown up. So now, like you said, it's in everybody's face. We expect answers. So
it's absolutely nuts. Baldwin said it best. The world is watching.
Yeah.
You know, and
time to be journalists, man. It really is time.
It is time to be journalists, and you know, I have high hopes for, you know, RA there, Richard Allen. I have high hopes for that. I have high hopes for the Cheryl Coker case as well. I believe, as you said, I think it's key, Bobby. We see how the public can sway or can affect, I'll put it that way, can affect the justice system by being out there and being vigilant, maybe doing shows like this one, or getting out if you are unfortunate enough to have something like your own Delphi or your own Cheryl Coker right in your backyard. Getting out there, putting fucking boots on the ground, calling the prosecutor's office, calling this person. These are all my plans, you know, to do so. Moving on in discussing this case. It's been kind of hard here lately because off topic, but I'm a judge for a film festival in Orlando, and I'm going down there in Florida for a few days, the Indie Horror Junkie Film Festival. And the guy asked me, "Oh, you want to be a judge?" Sure. So I'm trying to cram in all of these movies and watch them and work and
that's rough.
But it's coming. It's coming. We wanted to shed light on the case. We did a little bit of deep dive, and not too much. That's coming. That takes time. But we're definitely going to put pressure on it, and I think that's what, you know, that's what needs to happen. It seemed to work. The online presence, really worked for Delphi. It really got people thinking and questioning the state's case.
Right. Sure.
And if anybody's watching in your area, like, please reach out, even if it's down to the personalities of the people that are involved in the Coker case. That kind of stuff is what's going to shed light on the case. Reach out and send it to Otis and let us know so that we can do more research too. But, I mean, I feel like that's how you learn. I mean, none of us are in their shoes. None of us were in their family groups or their friend groups. So having the people that were come forward and discuss what they were like, and we can speculate, but again, if you have firsthand accounts, that's, I feel like, what's helpful. So
absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Make common sense prevail.
Oh God, you're relying on common sense. Oh geez, it already seems futile.
worth a shot at least.
It is worth the shot. Yeah, we need to call it a day. Please check it out. There's a little bit out there on Cheryl Coker. You can YouTube, just Google, come up with articles. If you're interested in this case, again, there's not a lot been put out there in the news here of recent. Delphi, on the other hand, that's a day-to-day situation right there. You don't know what's gonna happen from
well, I'm
day
waiting
to
for
day.
those transcripts next week. I can't wait to see what she does with that. I mean, you have to have something. There's a reason why you haven't given them up yet, in my opinion, and I can't wait to see what that reason is.
Oh man, I hope that's made public and we all can put eyes on that, because that's going to be interesting.
That will be. I'm looking forward to it.
So thank you guys. Thank you, Kelly. Great first show. Oh, that was awesome, man. You brought a lot to the table and we really appreciate
Fun conversation for sure.
It was.
I appreciate you guys giving me a chance. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hey, it was awesome. We did 2 shows. The viewers don't realize we did 2 shows. You only saw 1, but we did 2. So, hey, with that being said, have a happy start to your week. Happy Monday. And again, you can, if anybody, comes across something about the Cheryl Coker case or about the Delphi case, any of the cases we're, talking about, you can email them at nightofthelivingreds@gmail.com. And Dreds, no A, as you can see there at the bottom of the screen. And that would be awesome. If we're friends on Facebook, hey, just shoot me a message anyway. So, hey, with that, happy Monday. Have a good day. Later.